Hey, welcome, Collide, to another thrilling episode of BDE. We were off air talking about concerts, first concerts, doobie smoke, all the stuff that first concerts have. My moment of kind of like shock, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm at a concert, the guy in front, and I'm in, high school, maybe I'm a freshman. I'm at a concert. The guy in front of me is sitting there smoking weed, and I'm shocked by this. Oh my gosh, what is this and all? And he was sitting down, and the police finally come over and grab this guy and yank him up. He was in a wheelchair and he had no legs, and they carried him up the stairs, and I was just like,
"Sir, it's
what
medicinal.
just happened?"
It's medicinal.
It's medicinal. Hey, boys, how are y'all?
I'm great. My first concert, I got high as well, and it was Robert Plant, of course.
Ooh.
I mean, what a great first concert.
Boy.
I love that dude. Led Zeppelin frontman. But I got high, I had no idea what was going on. I was 11, 12.
Was that the Honey Drippers supergroup?
Back in the Honey Drippers era.
And who played keyboard for the Honey Drippers?
Man, don't know.
Paul Schaefer of David
No
Letterman.
way,
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
That's a name from the past.
Let's keep going on that trivia. Who wrote the song It's Raining Men by the Weather Girls? It's raining men, hallelujah. Who wrote that song? The aforementioned Paul Schaefer.
Well, yeah, I was thinking you were going there, but didn't know. Good one. That's a good one, Chuck.
Yeah, there you go. I'm just full of it today. All right, where are we starting off, Mark?
Don't mess with Texas. Energy environmental litigation on deck.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I'll kind of set up this story. Ashley Watt, and I need to preface this with dear friend. I love Ashley. She's great. Dear friend has a ranch out in West Texas, kind of by Monahans, and just an old field out there that literally Texaco had taken the lease to in like 1924, and just had all sorts of old P&A wells spewing across, kind of the lifetime of the property. We all know out in West Texas, God did not put any pressure under the ground. So if you have pressure and spewing wells, it's man-made. I mean, any idiot knows that. And just had a real problem interacting with Chevron through the years on that. And you kind of messed with the wrong person there with Ashley, because she's wicked smart. And basically what had happened is, went back and kind of dug in and found records on microfiche that basically Chevron was way over injecting their limits. They were in effect claiming this was a water flood, but it was really just a way to get out of paying saltwater disposal type stuff. If I had to guess, that's what was happening. And so anyway, just filling up the reservoir with that water probably polluted the groundwater in the area. Ashley's mom died of a rare form of cancer. So we'd done multiple podcasts on this. The kind of the biggest one I did was 31.69, because I was out riding around on Antina Ranch, and Ashley showed me a spot where a P&A'd well had bubbled over and water had spewed everywhere. And there was literally 400 yards of death and destruction, right? Dead mesquite trees, no grass, all that. And Chevron claimed that only 31.69 barrels of salt water had fallen on the ground. And I was like, this is West Texas. That would evaporate before it hit the ground. And so what we did is we got a freshwater truck to come out and just spill 31.69 barrels to see what happened. And I mean, it didn't even make a trickle in the 400 yards of death and despair. So I have not talked to Ashley about this, but I kind of hope she's at peace in terms of what got done here. And I'm the biggest homer for the oil and gas industry out there. I think we do great things, but we also need to be responsible actors, and we need to monitor ourselves, or else the EPA and others are going to do it who don't necessarily understand our industry or have our industry's best efforts at heart. So anyway, that's kind of the setup. It looks like Chevron bought the ranch, so the lawsuit was settled, and hopefully everybody's happy.
Yeah, and it was set to go to trial imminently. They bought not only the surface and all that, all the surface assets, they bought the subsurface as well, as you would imagine. And this kind of harkens back to my seminal experience with pollution liability, and that's the Valdez project. It's the first time I ever heard the notion of limitless liability. And so I think I look at it from the defendant's standpoint, setting a precedent with a jury outcome relative to, putting focus on not only individual wells, but, the collateral impact of what's been going on for decades now in the subsurface, just part of normal oil and gas operations. But I don't think any other outcome, at least from Chevron's perspective, was tenable. Of course, the purchase price was not disclosed. The owner is registered as with an address at Chevron's San Ramon, California location, which is, I guess, their old headquarters. But this was kind of a wholesale outcome in terms of a settlement to avoid really setting some much bigger precedents.
And there's no doubt that we're going to have an issue in the future with old P&A'd wells. I mean, a lot of them need to be P&A'd. A lot of the P&A stuff that was done 50 years ago just wasn't best practices or whatever, and so can become an issue. So I don't know what a good solution is to all that, but it is going to be something we're going to be dealing with.
I mean, unbelievable when you think about what really is happening here. I mean, and at the end of the day, it's not a settlement. That's evidence suppression with a property deed. And I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think Chevron proved something really important here. It's cheaper to buy a 22,000 acre ranch than to establish legal precedent that oil companies are responsible for their century-old messes. I mean, this is a big issue. And that's not really corporate malfeasance, if you will. That's rational economic behavior. I mean, that was the only decision that Chevron could have made, and a system that could unravel big oil's lock in West Texas.
If you had thought about it, had Ashley wanted to play hardball, she could have sold 100 acres to pick any large environmental defense fund and said, hey, go to town, Greenpeace, whoever, And so, yeah, the kind of sad thing, and hopefully I'll grab a beer with Ashley at some point and get to hear this, and hopefully she is at peace, because like I said, I'm a big Ashley fan. The sad thing is this was like the family ranch where she grew up and learned to hunt and, ran out in the sand and, all those memories and stuff. So it's kind of got to be hard parting with.
How many generations did that ranch go back?
I want to say that part of the ranch her mom had for a long time, and then they added to it kind of when mom and dad got married, but I may be off on that.
I mean, I think for those that are sentimental, absolutely, there's a little sad piece. But for $20 billion or whatever, whatever the number really is, it can't be that hard.
As Chris Bird said, it is West Texas, but
well, it's going to be interesting to see what the follow-on is to this, if any, that somewhat emboldens the opposition, if you will, to the industry. But to your opening point, doing the right thing, the industry has certainly a responsibility and an obligation to live within existing statutes and regulations. But, being a good citizen, I think this becomes more in focus as we start to maybe shift the focus from kind of the emissions obsession we've had to really what's going on and under the ground. And the next piece of this, environmental litigation. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit last week against Global Fiberglass Recycling Texas LLC, which owned and operated a couple of fiberglass recycling sites near Sweetwater. Those had essentially been shuttered or the gates locked since 2020, but over time, there had been more than 3,000 wind turbine parts, most of which you see in the photos are the blades that have been stacked up in what looks like a wind turbine blade graveyard. And so apparently the permit or the license to operate that facility required that at least 75% of the parts that were stored or staged on that site had to be recycled, and that clearly wasn't happening. And I believe they had a whistleblower back as early as 2018 that raised the attention of what was going on at this site. And so, you look at the aerial shots of it, it is a massive stack of degrading fiberglass turbine blades.
I mean, this has been going on since 2018 and 18 years of investigation. They got an agreed order in 2022. But here's what I think is just hilarious, but not funny. Funny, not funny. By 2025, inspectors show up and find, I'm not making this up, more waste had accumulated since their last visit at an abandoned facility with no permits and nobody home. So these green bastards are dirtier than Chevron is in West Texas.
Here's some great facts for you when you think about wind turbines. The blades are made out of fiberglass and carbon, fiber composites. So it's basically indestructible, right? Only about 5% of turbines get recycled worldwide. The rest are thrown into landfills, chopped up, or get the irony here, burned for fuel. And tell me that's pleasant in terms of emissions. And, one of those blades can weigh as much as a school bus. And one other kind of last thing, in Europe, they've actually started blade graveyards where they put these massive piles. They have them in Denmark. They've got them in Germany. And some people actually turn those into bike paths. So
what's the half-life of a turbine blade?
500,000 years, I believe. Last time someone dated it using the wood method. Paxton's lawsuit quote was perfect, by the way. Just because the radical left calls something a green industry does not give any company a free pass to harm Texas countryside. The irony is thick, by the way. I mean, massive terrestrial damage. The fiberglass graveyard, nobody wants to talk about. And what's frustrating is it reminds me of Finland, by the way. If we have time, I want to go move over to Finland because that's a great story too. But and it's all about wind. But this is good for Paxton. I can believe it. I mean, I'm dealing still with a broken new blade off the waters of Nantucket.
Another one
that fell into the ocean, and that shit is still fucking coming up on our shores.
Oh, that's still the blade from what, 2024?
Yeah, there's still shit. It just pops up. Fiberglass is nasty. It learns how to find open holes. It's like alien, man.
One thing I found amusing about the Texas lawsuit, it identified the headquarters location of Global Fiberglass Recycling Texas LLC was in, drumroll, Kirkland, Washington.
Yes.
Hey, we're green.
Nah, exactly.
And that's, we won't get into it, but I saw a post yesterday about some research group, lawyer out of Vermont who lives in LA, talking about the shock and awe that the AI push to off-grid or behind-the-meter generation was EGAD's natural gas. It needs to be clean and demand responsive was her contention. And then, just thought about these stories where, you have actual surface damage that you can see and measure with a lot of it, and not to mention the far upstream mining operations that have ramped up to go to support this transition, or whatever you want to call it. So when are we going to shift focus to actual damage that we can see and live next to? So that's broader philosophical point, I guess. But
yeah, it's, at the end of the day, the thing I hate about it, and we've talked about this a million times on BDE, so we don't need to belabor the point. All of life is a water balloon. You push one side, another side pops out. And the problem is we can't have a reasonable discussion on the various ramifications of everything because you're destroying the planet and blah, 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 blah. No, it's all trade-offs. There is no utopia. I mean,
by the way, let's be honest. I don't think any of these people pushing the Al Gores of the world, they don't give two shits about the environment. It's just a money scheme. Now, they've convinced a whole generation of young people to care about it and think that if natural gas bad, green energy, wind turbines, even though they're killing, even all the waste good, that's the problem is all the sheep have been taught that, all these lemmings have been taught that, hey, it's really good and anything old school is bad. That's the problem. But the people behind it, they don't mean it. They're just get rich. It's a get rich scheme.
To your point, I think it's even deeper and darker than that. It's about control. I mean, the single greatest thing you can do for freedom is give somebody a car. Boom. You can go drive out to West Texas. Nobody knows where the hell I am if I don't take my cell phone with me, and, off to the races. And I ultimately think this is about control because all of these things seem to narrow in on ways that you can control the population.
I mean, Chuck, wow.
I'm with Holly on this. Team
I
Holly.
mean, Holly's applauding.
I'm getting there. I really am. I'm kind of Pollyanna. No, they mean well. They just view the world different. No, they don't.
No.
They do not.
All right, let's move to outer space.
Do it.
Love it.
You guys want to talk AI in space?
Why not?
Did you guys watch the Cheeky Pint podcast?
I did not. I saw clips, but set it up for us, Mark.
Yeah, so it was a podcast that Elon did a few days ago, Cheeky Pint. They're sitting around drinking pints of Guinness. And at least the bulk of what I was able to watch and listen to was focused on the notion of putting AI data centers in space at speed and scale. And when you listen to Elon talk about what SpaceX is pivoting into, it's not only, trying to get what ultimately is the cost of launches down to get satellites in space, and they put more satellites in orbit than about, I think they're 90+% of the satellites that get launched on an annual basis. But basically the concept is we're going to put AI data centers in space that will be powered by solar panels. I don't know what that actual physical configuration looks like, but the argument is solar is 5 times more productive when you don't have the atmosphere to deal with and weather, and 1/10 of the cost because you don't have the need for battery backup. And so he's talking about literally within 30 to 36 months having meaningful launches of space-based AI data centers. They are working at the root level from raw materials to manufacturing to kind of end product for the solar panels that will be used for these, I don't know if you call them satellites or mini co-located data centers with solar power driving the GPUs, but some pretty interesting, I guess, visions about what this ultimately is. 10,000 launches a year, which is literally a launch an hour. And you only need, if it's optimized, you only need 20 or 30 spaceships or rockets to be able to do that because they orbit the Earth once, come back, you pick them, put them back in the rotation, launch the next one. And it is just a super interesting concept. But when you think about, I don't know, the reliability of the data centers and the GPUs themselves, what does that mean? You can't suffer a high failure rate up in space. So how are you going to do the maintenance work and the repair?
Here's my question. I've got a couple questions here. I love the idea. I mean, we talk space, but number one, is Vlad our most loyal listener and a bunch of others listening to our show? They don't even believe that space is real. So there's this big glass ceiling. So you hit that. So basically what some of our listeners are thinking is they're basically building data centers somewhere in the South Pole behind that, that area that no one's allowed to go in. So number one. Secondly,
hold on, just real quick. I saw Vlad yesterday. He was very disappointed in y'all two of making fun of me for having to go to the bathroom at the end of last week's episode. But continue on.
Hey, Mark and I just put our catheters in during the show.
Was this at Joseph's or at Larry's? Is that?
This was at Joseph's because Johanna had her birthday party, so we all met at Joseph's.
So has there been a detente reached?
No, the old men are still at Larry's, and I'm way over caffeinated because the waiters at Larry's do not let your cup get empty.
We needed to do a episode live in Rosenberg.
Richmond.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. I had to say it.
I know you did.
I had to. Here's the real story.
Feign disgust. Go ahead.
SpaceX launches the satellites. Tesla makes the solar panels and robots. XAI builds the AI. Neuralink interfaces with it. X distributes it. It's a closed-looped empire for Elon Musk. It's perfect.
They manufacture and they source the raw materials and manufacture the solar panels.
Yeah. So he's talking about controlling everything.
And probably the chips at some point too.
Here's my question. Should all those guys that are getting their deep water welding degrees, should they pivot to, because they're going to need blue collar in space? Like what does the blue collar rig worker look like when the data center up in space is broken? Like who do you send up there? What does that look like?
I want to go 28 and 28, man. I want to be.
Should we go get our?
I want to be a space-based
we need to just go get
pusher.
some But what he said, I mean, basically, what Musk said in that what I read is those who have lived in software land don't realize they're about to have a hard lesson in hardware. Like we don't realize how hard it is, but building a data center in space, that's hard.
You know what's interesting, and I think Musk is proving this. Longtime venture capitalist Burton McMurtry, God rest his soul, passed away. He was a Rice guy, board of trustees at Rice, board of trustees at Stanford. He's the only venture capitalist that gave Microsoft any money. So kind of generally acknowledged in the Hall of Fame of the creators of venture capital. You know, Burt McMurtry's there, and I was fortunate enough to get to meet him and call him a friend. And when he would come into Houston for a board meeting, he'd take me to breakfast. And anyway, so I got to talk to him as a young college student. And one of the things he always said about venture capital is he said, at the end of the day, the engineers can always build what they say they're going to build. It'll take longer. It'll cost a little bit more money. Your job is to really go, who cares? Is there an actual market for this? You know, does it actually matter? Will it kind of be cost competitive? All those type things. And I think Musk is proving that. You know, Musk is sitting there every day, because you can say all you want to about Musk, his politics and all that. He pushes engineers and they solve these problems. And it works. And at least to this point, he's been right about the markets developing. And so to that end, you know, the big issue in space outside of just the cost and how hard it is, like you guys have said, is the latency effect. But at the end of the day, I still think AI, ultimately, a lot of the inference is going to happen at the device level. I mean, the Tesla
we're moving back more and more on device for that reason. That was, you know, when we talked about the Internet of Things, that really was the genesis. Is you can't do everything in the cloud because it's going to become too big of a problem, and that's what we're talking about. But let me go back for a second. What Musk was talking about in that podcast is that we're running out of electricity on Earth. The entire U.S. uses about half a terawatt, and scaling AI to where it needs to go would mean doubling that. And the one big issue is the gas turbines. Really, at the end of the day, it's coming down to gas turbine manufacturers. There's only a few on this. I mean, maybe there's a business there. Let's build the next NVIDIA of gas turbines. But they're back ordered through 2030. So that's my question. Why aren't we starting a gas turbine manufacturing company?
And as he pointed out, you know, we basically said we can't scale power for AI on Earth, thus space, where, you know, he used a metric, 1/1,000,000th of the sun's energy is 100,000 times more, if not more, than all of the energy use of civilization. And so, and he learned, you know, using XAI and Memphis as an example, it's hard to build a power plant, was his message. Well, you came up with a pretty good interim solution for 300 to 400 megawatts inside of 150 days. Now they are building a fixed structure power plant across the border in Mississippi, but on an industry-wide scale, his point is you can't scale to power, whether that's technical limitations or manufacturing limitations. In the case of turbines, what he's talking about is the actual turbine blades and the vanes themselves. There's only a handful, maybe 3 or 4 companies that do the casting and forging for these very highly engineered blades. And so that's one huge bottleneck.
We're not talking about fiberglass wind blades. We're talking about aerospace steel, correct?
Yeah. And the other one is, you know, it takes a long time to navigate through both the state and federal level permitting process for anything, particularly
for building a plant, not building the blades, but
correct. So
I mean, that's the libertarian in me says that this is a political problem and actually not a physics problem.
Here's my prediction. Do you want to hear it? Write this down, Collide.
Lay it on us.
Whether you believe the timeline or not, the direction is clear. Every major tech company is now racing to put compute infrastructure into orbit. So Google has Project Suncatcher, Bezos Blue Origin, Sam Altman supposedly has been looking to buy a rocket company. So when the software guys think about start buying rockets, we're all told that we've hit the limits of what Earth can provide. But these are software nerds telling the world what hardware needs and what energy needs we need. So I think my predictions, going back to this, I think Elon Musk is just fucking with those guys because they're lemmings too. And he knows that there's a better way to do it. And come on, we have a bunch of smart oil and gas engineers listening to this podcast. I don't believe it. I know AI is the power needs. It's all happening. But there's going to be solutions. There's going to be solutions on Earth. This is a red herring, if I've ever heard one. Musk will continue to make money on XAI. He's going to make money on sending rockets into space. That'll never stop. But this is a red herring. It's not real. That's my prediction.
I wonder what's the site called Polycon or whatever. I wonder if we can go place that bet. Poly market. Yeah. Can we?
Yeah. A couple of Israelis were arrested that like figured out how to hack the system. But
we were in a meeting with an oil and gas company, and one of the things I always do, kind of pre-sales meeting, is we do intros, and I always say, "Tell me what you're doing with AI." Even if it's just in your own life, you use ChatGPT or whatever. And so we're going around, and the guy goes, what I'm doing with AI right now is I'm writing a script that goes in and finds arbitrages in the poly market, betting market, and I act on those. So, a lot of times what'll happen is there'll be an event, and it's like 47% chance that it's yes, 48% chance that it's no. So you bet both ways. And so he's like, yeah, I'm sitting there using AI to do that. And I'm making, 27,000 bets a day, netting, $200 or whatever. It was pretty cool.
Day trading all over again.
Absolutely. Lightning round.
let's wrap up with the lightning round. I'm gonna start at the bottom of the three and talk about BP. And if this is the only thing we wrap up with, that's fine. So BP announced in its earnings call that they are going to suspend their $750 million quarterly share repurchase program and use all excess cash to reduce debt. When I looked on the day that it opened, I forget what day that was, maybe Monday, they were down like 6 or 7%. Haven't seen how the stock has traded. And it really is an example of what I think has been known by the best among the majors is through the cycles over long periods of time, you got to have a fortress balance sheet. Credit to Arjun Murthy for that moniker. But, this is just another gut punch, if you will, which in the immediate term reduces the return of, although they've got to get their leverage metrics much more in line. So if you compare where BP is on a net debt to total capital, they're at about 23%. Exxon's at 11. Their debt coverage, BP's debt coverage or leverage ratio is like 1.4 times debt to EBITDA. Exxon's is less than half, 0.5, like 0.45. So this is a kind of a wide gap in the fundamentals of being a major. BP obviously went off on its transition distraction for multiple years and ended up levering up because those projects didn't generate the types of returns that were anticipated, or at least sold in terms of justification for making those investments. And now, we've got a triage situation as it relates to BP's leverage position, or gearing, as they say.
Yeah, I come back to the same thing I've always said about BP, and y'all are tired of hearing it. It's almost as bad as Mark and the EIA.
It's the IEA.
Every IEA, whatever.
EIO, Mark.
2021, whatever it takes. Every individual person I've ever met that worked for BP is incredibly impressive. One of my best management teams, the Treadstone guys, they were ex-BP.
I feel like you have to say that there's like an AI loop that goes off in your brain.
Yeah,
if you're going to say something bad about, you're trying to give the sandwich.
Yeah,
go ahead. Everyone at BP you've ever met are amazing. All right, give us the dirt.
Jane Stricker, tick on down
Keep
the
going.
list.
Yeah, we've heard them.
Tape. How as a group have they had such a fucked up just mess of a track record? Because I've never met a stupid ex-BP person.
Because you know what happens in riot theory, Chuck. You get a bunch of normal people and one guy says, "Let's get them." And all of a sudden you're dead because 50 people decided, hey, we just killed a guy because we were just all doing it. And then they realize later, we don't know what happened. That's bad culture. BP has bad culture. I don't know how they're going to change it. But they just told their shareholders, you get nothing. Good day, sir. I mean, this is Willy Wonka turning his back on that young lady and the young boy and sent him outside. And then the boy gives his gobstopper back and leaves, and Willy Wonka turns around. But there's no Willy Wonka moment for BP. Write that down. That's a quote.
I like that one. There you go. I might steal that at some point.
There's no Willy Wonka turnaround for BP.
All right, last item. Thoughts on Expand announcing it's also departing Oklahoma City. I think they made that announcement a couple of days after Devin, and then Nick Del Osso is stepping down as CEO. What do you make of it?
Last one out, turn out the lights. It was when, and I shouldn't say this about Nick because I've met him, but I haven't seen him since he worked for Jeffries way before it. But when they announced him as CEO, my reaction on BDE was, nah, blah. I mean, they announced the CEO search. It took 9 months or 11 months, however long it took. And you settle for the guy who had been the CFO and had been in front of you the whole time. I mean, when it's obvious, like Case Van Hoff, boom, CEO is stepping down, boom, Case is taking over, and we're pumped about that. The fact you looked around, you found it. That being said, in the time he took over, the stock price has doubled. It was 50 and now it's 102. But I will say that he took over in October of 21, which was probably still heights of COVID stuff. And in the first year, it went from 50 to 102. And that may have been the COVID bounce back. So maybe he's been flat for the last 4 years.
Hopefully they'll take a mulligan on the renaming. If not, just go back to Chesapeake.
I mean, we're approaching the 10-year anniversary of Aubrey McClendon's death. March 2nd, 2016, Texas Independence Day. The man who built Chesapeake into a giant, drove it into crisis, and then died in that horrific crash the day after being indicted. Now the company he built, he rebranded, it's been rebranded, it's merged, rebranded again, is leaving the city he built. And in some ways I don't know, I kind of feel bad, full circle. Oklahoma City was Aubrey's town, now even that's over. So it's an end of an interesting and an important era is sort of my take.
And that campus is beautiful. It's modeled after Duke, and you go walk around there, and there are a lot of smart folks there, and they've got some.
Chuck's got to say it.
Yeah,
so many smart people. Trash talk. Great people.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm a salesman these days. I got to be careful.
Let's get Collide into rolling the tape, and you just enter like the same speech. A lot of great people at, instead of BP, it's like at, and then you just AI changes the name of the company. Then you do your live shit where you talk trash about them, which is real time, and then AI takes over again.
So we need BP AI Chuck, we need Stevens AI Chuck, and we need Rice AI Chuck.
And we will not find those nice comments about my two co-hosts anywhere, just for the record. But
those are buried. Actually, Collide has written a script that says, if you ever say anything nice about your co-host, burn it.
Burn it. Delete it.
Burn it like those fiberglass blades.
Delete it. The one of the things that's always happened in the history of the oil business is when and you think that like when the oil business is down, Houston would suffer, and it does a little bit, but what always happened is people would get rid of their New Orleans office, fire half the people, and then bring half the people back to the home office in Houston. Same with Tulsa, same with Oklahoma City, same with Denver. And so during these dips in the industry, Houston always winds up expanding. And I think that becomes exponential. I do think if you're going to have an oil and gas company, you need to be in Houston, Texas. It's just where it happens.
And in this case, it's literally expanding with expand.
With expand. Y'all see Colin's post? Because we've hired 2 AI engineers that are both headquartered in Oklahoma City. Since the announcement of that, 2 corporate headquarters have left. So anyway, welcome to Houston, expand. Happy to have you.
Maybe they'll fill up that entire building that Southwestern built and never fully occupied.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, boys, it was good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
Likewise.
Do it again next week.
Go tell Vlad that we need to get his opinion on the rockets in space.
And a special guest next Friday, but we'll keep that under wraps.